Way up north to Alaska. Way up north to Alaska. North to Alaska. Go north to bless your soul. North to Alaska. Go north to bless your soul.
All right. Welcome back, y'all. We took a little break there, spring break. Well, I think Tim was the only one on break, went to Mexico or something, so...
It was tight.
It's tight, but we're back. Got another great guest with us today. We got Mr. Jason Borgstede with us. What's going on, Jason?
Just got back from snowboarding and snow skating.
Snowboarding and snow skating, that's what's up, man.
Yeah, can't stop, won't stop.
That's dope, man. Warmer weather, too. Was it a
stop,
slushy mess out there today?
Yeah, it was a little bit slushy. We were out at Hillberg. I went there yesterday to help them with their military event they do every year, their slope style. And they told me, oh, we're having our slush cup, so I thought, I'll try to stick around for that. Went out there with the original Nice Gordon. And, we just ripped up some snowboarding and then got the snow skates out.
It looked like there was a lot of younger kids at the contest.
Yeah, there's they probably had probably the older crew got shipped off.
Oh, yeah.
Every couple of years they're moving, so you get guys for a couple of years in there, unless they're the young kids, which are maybe their parents are around, but yeah, they're there for a few years and then they tend to move on, or unless they, sticking around is not necessarily the norm, but
yeah, for sure.
I'm speaking from complete inexperience, and so I'm just kind of going by the gist they gave me about it.
Right on. So if you guys don't know, Jason's been involved in the scene up here for a long time, 20 plus years. I don't know, maybe 30 plus, I'm not sure, but I don't know, man. Pretty much how did it all start for you? I mean, how'd you get into the snowboarding, skateboarding thing?
Skateboarding started, I'm going to say, I think 1984, I got my first board.
What was your first board?
And since I'm only 25, that's really weird that it happened then. But my mom was dating this guy who had a little gas station and a tow truck company in Ventura, California. I grew up in Oxnard, California, and she was dating this guy, and we were living with him, and he was right next door to one of these early adopter VHS places. This is when VHSs were first coming around, really, and getting popular. It was a little hole in the wall. Next thing you know, it blew up, and overnight, this guy, Salzer's Video, turned into this huge video place, or VHS place. So we'd go over there and check it out, and one Friday night, we were walking through the place, and I don't know how it happened, but it just caught my eye as, I was probably like 8 or 9-ish at that point. I saw Future Primitive, which is the second Bones Brigade video ever, and I just said, oh, that looks cool, can we rent that? And so my mom rented that, and I think immediately bonded with Lance Mountain, or Lance Mountain's character, persona, all that in there, because I was a bit of a clown myself, and but I was also enamored by this skateboard thing. I was like, wow, this looks awesome. I don't know what it is, but it looks super cool, and I asked for one for Christmas, and that Christmas I got an Action Sport Kamikaze, which is, like maybe a higher end version of a Walmart type board.
So it was like Nash in that period.
I mean, Action Sport was okay. They weren't up there with a Bones Brigade type thing, but they were something. They were good enough to get by.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't know anything from anything. I was just cool. I got it, and I got that board, and I didn't even try tricks really on it. For the first year or two that I had it, it was my dog pulling me around to the store and back, and I was on the thing all the time, but it was just getting pulled around, and eventually I started to think, oh, cool, I'll try this acid drop. I didn't know what it was called or anything, but I'd see in the video these guys starting to look into street skating, and I didn't know anything about a ramp, so I saw them jump off things with the board in their hand and throw it under their feet. I was a little scared to do that, so I'd go to the park and do it off a little wooden post into the grass, so I didn't have to worry about rolling away.
Yeah.
And then I remember a skate shop popped up right by our place in Oxnard, my grandma's house. I skated down there with basically ice cream money and got a clear 6-inch strip of grip. I got a painter's cap and a few stickers. And I was like, what? You know, like, what can I afford? What can I get with this right here? Give me everything I can get with what I've got here, you know? And so I got that clear grip with some indie stickers and different things, put it on the top sheet in that open space, you know?
Yeah.
And some rip grip, got some of that on there on my rails, and I was set. And then I got another board. I don't know. It's kind of a blur at that point.
Did you return the VHS or did you keep it?
Oh, no, we returned. You know, to be honest, I most likely copied it.
Oh,
that was our jam back then, was just copying VHS, so pirating. So that served me right later in life if somebody copied JB Deuce videos. But yeah, so I got another video of Hosoi, this street style board from the bike / skate shop that was also in Oxnard, and I don't know why I had two boards at that point. I still wasn't trying to ollie or anything like that. I didn't understand that side of it yet. But shortly after that, we moved to Alaska. My mom got remarried, said, hey, we're moving to Alaska when summer's over. Pack your stuff, let's go. We hopped in a car, drove up to Alaska, got here about a week into 8th grade starting, which was 1988 for me. And I went through that winter. Just saw sledding, didn't know anything about snowboarding, so I sledded with my stepbrothers up here and stuff. And then that spring, you know, back then it was kind of segregated. It was, you had the jocks, you had the skaters, the preps, the stoners.
I haven't heard the word preps in so long.
That was pretty much your groups, you know? So I kind of, sort of migrated towards the skater kids, was more involved in that side of things. And so when spring came around, I was like, all right, I'm going to learn how to ollie and I'm going to get into this. And then I learned how to crack a little ollie. My cousin lived in Hawaii, both of us single children. And so we would kind of alternate summers spending with each other and have a little brother for the summer brother. And so I went out there to Hawaii, and it was on. It was like, all right, let's skateboard. First day out of the plane, got in, dropped the bags, headed down to town. He's like, I know where some skate stuff's at. I set my board down, saw a curb that was, when you're at home, a little bit bigger than Tim, from what I hear. Mm-hmm. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's actually smaller than that.
No, it's, you know, like one of those baby curbs where it's just barely the concrete slab.
Yeah.
Like I should have been able to roll my board up this thing, right? And I was like, all right, here's where I'm going to throw down this new ollie I got figured out. Somehow didn't clear that slam right away. So introduction to skating. I don't know if it was that same day or a few days later. Also, I learned how to drop in that summer. I tried to do an axle stall, and on a janky quarter pipe they had made, slipped out, slammed my shin, couldn't even skate home. And that was it. Introduction, you know. Hey kid, meet the concrete. Do you want to still do this? Sure do. Let's keep going. You know,
that's the defining moment for a lot of people. Some people like eat shit like that, and then they go, "Nope, not doing that ever again." That's like what you know, how a lifer and someone who just does it for fun. It separates them.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, up here in Alaska, it was real short season. So I mean, you really didn't get to skate that much. I mean, 4 or 5 months, dude. So, like, when did you really get into snowboarding? Like,
so now I'm into skating. I kind of consider that my real skating, even though I was skating for years before that, just rolling.
Yeah.
But realistically, I considered that when I started. That fall, I came home, saw a commercial. I think it was from G&B. I don't know who else it would have been. And for those of you who don't know, G&B was the first. It definitely wasn't the first shop up here, but it was the first normal sized, I think not in a garage type skate shop up here, as far as I know. My facts could be a little bit wrong there, but when I started, that was the spot. And I saw a commercial of a guy, just riding through some POW, kind of in some flat area, and I said, I want to do that.
So your story and my story is the same. You saw it on TV and you're like, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, if that's your story, then it's
it was pretty much, it was like an X Games thing when I was young. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Can I have that? I want that.
Yeah. It was nowhere near. So yes, similar storylines, but the stuff I was doing was nowhere near as popular at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to have gotten real lucky to see that commercial, because there was probably nobody doing it. So that winter came around, and I was like, cool, sledding, peace. I'm good with sledding now. That's no longer a thing. Now let's go snowboard. So we went down to Gary King, which used to be a sporting goods store here, a local
people
sporting
talk
goods
about
store.
that place still.
Yeah, it was a Midtown area where Barnes and Noble is. But that was the big spot that sold everything. It was like your local everything, sporting, Alaska, all that stuff. And we got a black snow for $50, and my mom said, all right, if you can pay half of it, we'll get it. So it's $25 each. And got this plastic board, no edges, no P-Tex. It's just molded plastic, And I learned on a sledding hill in Eagle River, which if you ever go over Highland exit and take the bridge going up, you'll see a walkway bridge just off to your right-hand side when you go up, a little electrical thing and a hill. That used to go all the way down, and you could sled out through that and not have to worry about cars coming in or anything like that. And so that was the local sledding hill. Everybody was going there every weekend, all the time. And so we took snowboard stuff there, and I learned how to get down it straight, no turning. And
probably couldn't turn very good on those boards anyways.
No, I didn't know what a turn was.
Yeah.
This was like, it was essentially like figuring out how to hill bomb on a snowboard. You're standing up on this thing. And like I said, it's all a blur, kind of. You remember sort of doing it, but you didn't pause long enough to soak it in, to say, oh, I can see how this binding works, or any of that stuff. It was just, hey, I'm just a young kid flying by the seat of my pants, put something under me, I'm going to try to stand up on it and go down a hill, see what happens. So I did that, and as soon as I figured out how to get down that hill, I was like, all right, it's time to move on. And so I figured out how to sell that board for about the same price. Went to G&B. They used to sell used boards. Bought a $100 used board.
It was a Kemper, right?
GNU.
That was a GNU?
Yep. GNU anti-gravity. Pretty much picture your normal ironing board, but about 2 feet longer. That's about what you were trying to ride. Just a huge stiff plank. You're taking this tiny kid and putting him on a 165 that doesn't bend, almost an inch thick board, crazy thing, and trying to figure it out. And now you have metal edges. So first trip to the sledding hill, I made about 10 feet, slam right to my face. Oh, welcome to edges. Welcome to metal edges. So,
Man,
that was the introduction.
that's pretty insane.
I had the same problem, though. I got a Burton Air that was like way too big for me when I was a kid, and we didn't know, and I like struggled for like 4 or 5 years to just turn. Like I could barely do it.
That's part of my preaching with the shop, and obviously you know this because you're there all the time, but when I tell people, like, when they go, why should we go to a local shop, and I say, well, preaching service announcement here for why you shop local. If you said, I want to go play basketball, and you went to Foot Locker and they put you in a pair of high heels and you went out and played basketball, you'd be like, this is fucking awful. I don't want to do this anymore. This doesn't seem fun at all. So same thing pertains to snowboarding and skateboarding. If somebody's like, hey, I want to try this, and you put them on completely wrong equipment, set them up the wrong way, most likely they're going to have an awful time.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, why do I want to do this? And then you don't just lose, you don't lose a customer, you lose a lifer. You lose somebody who would have said, I love this thing, it's fun, I'm going to keep going. They quit. They just say, why do that again? I mean, it's not like, I don't know this personally because I've never drank, smoked, or done any stuff. I've been straight edge forever. But
I have. I can tell you if it's real.
I've never heard anybody say, I drank for the first time and I really liked it. Or I smoked a cigarette and it was super smooth first time. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
They have this awful experience, but they keep working and get past it. Well, snowboarding and all that kind of stuff's not like that. If you have a shitty experience your first time, more than likely you're going to go find something else to do. So if you get set up on a board that's 5 times too long for you, what's the chances that you're going to
I just wasn't gonna quit.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with it. Like I just wanted to do it so bad, and I didn't really know why. I just I had to do it.
Some people, it's just in your blood. Doesn't matter how uphill it is, you're gonna climb it and just keep going. But yeah. Anyway, that wasn't meant to be a commercial. It's just something that irks me a little bit about.
No, it's true.
It's true, man. Like Tim said, but. Like, I don't know, like, I've been in Sumies before, and you can tell somebody's
never... What? You went in there?
Yeah, and you can tell somebody's never rode a skateboard in their life, and I'm, like, checking out a pair of Adidas shoes, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're going to love the way these skate, like, I remember, and these are this good. I'm like, man, you never touched a skateboard in your life. Like, what are you talking about, dude? And like... But I mean, I guess they're trained to sell like that or whatever.
Well, they're good salespeople, but it's not.
But I could see how that's gonna turn somebody off from something because, I mean, they were feeding them this bullshit, and then they get out there, and it's really not what they thought they were getting. And
well, it's like the equivalent of like if you're a runner and you like are serious about marathon running or whatever it is. Like I have a specific foot shape. I'm not gonna go to Sports Authority to go buy my running shoes because I have a certain width, certain arch. I need it fitted. It has to be the right thing for my running. So it's like it has to, with skateboarding and snowboarding, it has to be like that, especially snowboarding more than skateboarding because you can get away with some stuff in skateboarding, Yeah.
So you kind of riding just like solo when you first started? Did you have yourself a little crew you were rolling with, or?
No, every once in a while, I remember rolling up on a couple kids at the sledding hill, and I remember one time before I really had my stuff, asking if I could borrow theirs and take a run, and that was about it. But I was a only child. We moved up here right in that height, that critical point of making friends and all that, and I certainly wasn't cool. We didn't have a bunch of money. There was not any of that stuff going on, and I had a pretty strict mom who wasn't going to be like, oh yeah, cool, run the streets, do whatever you want. It was pretty tight there. So I was pretty much solo. On the skating side back then in Eagle River, small town anyway, there was a handful of people that skateboarded at period. I mean, you already had a very small amount of people doing it at all in that early 90s time frame. So finding other people, it was pretty easy to spot whoever else was skating. We basically wore a uniform that said, hey, I'm the sore thumb sticking out over here. Do you guys want to hang out? Cool. And you would gravitate towards each other. Yeah. And so I would find that crew to skate with. We all congregated behind the movie theater on this waxed curb, and that's where everybody was at all the time.
The movie theater was dope.
And so that was easy. Snowboarding was a little bit tougher because, you'd be lucky to get to go to Hilltop or something like that. But by that, as time started to go on, I found other kids around town that snowboarded as well. We started to form a little crew, the Bombeck brothers and myself, Abe and Chris. Formed a little group, and then there were other kids that were starting to form, like Eric Jorgensen and all these other kids. I'm forgetting a million names there, but and we started to congregate towards each other. We weren't really cool with the older dudes that were sick, but every once in a while you'd spot them at Hilltop in the Pipe or somewhere like that, and you'd go, oh, you could tell they know what they were doing. And but yeah, I've always been fairly solo style. I guess let's say it like this. I've never been afraid to walk alone. Like a drifter. Going down the only road I've ever known.
That's what's up. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, I've never been too into snowboarding myself, dude. I'm all about it.
I don't know.
I'm
You were
stoked
pretty
on
good.
it.
You almost front boarded the flat at East,
Yeah, the triple kink.
the triple king.
You better not have done it with colored bindings, though.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no, they were black union bindings.
Okay.
No,
all right,
Dylan,
all right.
Dylan never snowboarded, and then I talked him into doing it because it was
Yeah.
right when I moved here, and we'd go to Hilltop, and they had like this. I think when you decided you didn't want to do it as much as when they had the double culvert slide on the pyramid, and we were trying to do front board
It
270.
was like switch backboard.
Oh, switch
270.
backboard 270, and he caught on the culvert and just
Yeah.
went down.
You know what? Culverts can die.
Yeah,
They can go away for all I care.
but he was decent. You could have done it if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm down for snowboarding. I can't afford it. It's expensive, dude. And yeah, but dude, like, I guess where I'm getting at is like I feel like I don't know, kind of from what I've seen in videos, and I mean I could be wrong, but I really feel like a big part of like freestyle, like snowboarding, like street boarding, stuff like that, kind of started up here. Could I be right about that, or?
So what I would probably say about that, it definitely didn't start here. And some of my first experiences with it were seeing it maybe on early Mac Dog movies.
Yeah.
But as far as what happened up here, we were some of the first doing it. So I remember, if you watch I have old videos that I did long before Borderline. So 92, 93, there was, if you're heading from Eagle River up Eagle River Road towards Greening, or right around Greening High School, or junior high, sorry about that, you can see that crosswalk over the road. Well, there's rails going all around the sides of those. And they used to have the connecting parts were a little bit lower, but I think they messed with that so we couldn't ride them. That was our rail garden. So the Bombex and I would, after school, all the time would be there. And, something struck a chord with us in that whole jib movement. We were stoked on just snowboarding. Cool. It was awesome. Old Fall Line movies. Showed Damian Sanders and Sean Farmer and Steve Graham and all these guys killing it, free riding and doing all that. And we loved it. We were like, that's sick. But as soon as we started to see jib stuff, something locked in. And that's probably because I was a skater too. And skating and snowboarding were helped each other because it allowed me to feel the same approach to stuff no matter what the season was. Like in the half pipe, I would do this trick where I would ollie up as high as I could off of a small air, but bash the like coming down on a disaster in a quarter pipe, and do that kind of stuff because I felt this way of these. I was looking through these skateboard glasses at things, I wasn't trying. I understand the separation. I see them as different things. But if you have a mindset of a skateboarder or a snowboarder or something, I can't erase that when I'm doing the other thing. I think, oh, cool, skateboarding, I really like that. I really associate with that. It doesn't matter how good you are at it, but if you feel that inside you when you're trying to approach stuff, then that comes out. And that was something that I really liked about snowboarding, is that cool, when the skateboard had to go away and it's cold and parking garages are all you have, well, now I also have this other thing that's similar to that. I can approach with the same mindset and still enjoy.
Yeah, I agree, because I always find it weird that there's like really talented skateboarders that are like, oh, I don't like snowboarding. I'll never do that. It's just weird to me. And I'm like, you have no idea how similar like it is to in that aspect of it's a board and like rail tricks, like it's the same movements.
I think they're way different activities.
Oh, they are.
But the mindset,
Yeah.
Like I said, the best way I can describe it is putting on these goggles that have a skate filter in it, and you're seeing it like that. Cool. I like to lip slide across something like that. I want to do this that way, and I like it this way. And those are the things that made it fun for me. I didn't just switch off skateboarding when put the thing away for the winter.
Yeah.
And and I didn't necessarily just. I more switched off snowboarding. Probably because skateboarding was first, probably because that was where my first influences were from. I'm not trying to sound core like, well, skateboarding's sicker and it rules all and everything, but realistically, let's look at it. The roots of it came from skateboarding, you know? And snowboarding owes a lot of roots to skateboarding and owes a lot of roots to surfing. And skateboarding owes its roots to surfing. It started with surfing, then it went to skating, then it went to snowboarding. And so I'm not one of those guys who has to say, like, well, I can only be this way or that way. On a side note, though, I did have a little bit of that attitude, though. Like in the summertime, I would never wear snowboard company shirts.
Well, I do that, too. I think it's
I would
weird.
only wear skate stuff.
I still don't do that.
Yeah.
Like all those shirts we get at the clinics, like I only wear them during the winter because it's just like I can't skate with a ride short sleeve. It's like
that's weird.
It like messes with your head a little bit.
So skateboarding is a little more leeway. I'm sorry I brushed over your earlier question about the rail stuff. It definitely didn't get invented up here. It was a lot of guys in Noah Selaznick and people who were skateboarders first
and
that
like
wanted
Russell Winfield
that had that
rails back then, right?
Yeah, a lot of those guys all at once jumped on that style because they had skate roots. I really believe, you'd have to ask each one of them, but I believe it's a similar mindset. And they said, cool, this is where our roots are. We approach it like this, and it opened a whole new door to people. Why? If you can put a rail on a hill, all of a sudden you got a whole new thing to ride and 20 different new tricks you can try to learn.
I always like those videos of like the old half pipe, mini pipe contests, and they'd put like the shittiest rail on the end of or in the middle of the fucking quarter pipe, and they'd like try and do it like it was an extension rail.
Yeah.
Dude's so gnarly.
Man, so you're talking about like you were making videos way before the whole Borderline thing and JB Deuce and all that, man.
I've seen one of the first videos.
Yeah, can you tell me a bit about that? How'd you actually first get into filming and all that?
I don't know what it is. I think it's so I was thinking about that a little bit the other day. Is it just narcissism that makes us want to film ourselves? I'm sure there's a little bit of that in there. There's a little bit where you just want to see what it looks like from somebody else's perspective. There's a little bit of show off, and anybody who's super core and says that they don't see any of that in there is delusional. Because if you've ever picked up a camera and tried to film yourself, then you're trying to show off. You want somebody to see this. Yeah. So go home, shut up.
You're not just it's even weirder if you film it and you keep it at home and only watch it to yourself.
Yeah, I do it.
Skate chub.
I watched my one line in Evoke 100 times one night in a row. Fuck it, man. I'm stoked on it.
Dude, there's nothing wrong with being excited that you did something, you accomplished something, and it was documented. But so from the earliest point, when I first was out in Hawaii, if we could get a parent somehow to record something or take a photo, I have these old photos that, do you remember the little, I forgot what they were called, but the roll of film was really small, it was longer, and it had two kind of circles on it. I forgot what those are called, but the camera was like a rectangle about this thick.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That, and anyway, I had my grandma take me around skateboarding and just asked her to take photos of me at different spots. And she didn't know anything about skateboarding, but she was supportive. Cool, I'll do that. So I still have those photos sitting at home where grandma followed me around and took some pictures. And I was so happy. And now I'm even more happy that I have that to be able to look back on and go wow, look what we wore back then. Look what tricks we were trying and stuff.
I don't know. I feel like when I was a kid, the whole thing with filming was, I don't know. I watched videos and I was like, man, that's what I want to do. I want to be in a video. And then you just like start skating with your homies and actually just filming tricks. But it's kind of like almost normal in skateboarding to like film, you know?
Well, like I said, my first introduction to skateboarding at all was a video compiled of people's sick tricks, having fun, edited music to it, all this stuff that makes it an appealing package. So when we got a chance to skateboard, film. And then back then, that was about the time when VHS cameras were starting to pop up. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a shoebox with a lens
launcher.
You know. Yeah. And we would carry this, and it was in one of those big briefcase type things, minus the handcuff for my wrist. And we would take this shoebox size thing out, take it out snowboarding sometimes, take it out skateboarding, whatever we could to film each other skating. And then as we started to get a little bit better and actually land some tricks, then the Bombex and I would film each other all the time on the rails and at Arctic Valley and whatever we could. And then at the end of that senior year, I came back in the fall after I graduated, and we put all that stuff together and made our first video. It was called Against the Grain. And it was a train wreck dumpster fire, to say the least.
you guys do the tape to tape editing, all that stuff?
Yeah, it was a linear editing machine. But so we had an awesome woodshop teacher who kind of saw the writing on the wall. And funny story is, I fell asleep in his metal shop class first day of high school, and he sent me right off. He's like, "Get out of here, you derelict," and it sent me to the office. And but right after that, I came back and understood he just expected something from you, and so I put in a good amount of effort, and he rewarded that with a lot of help. So on a side note, this guy helped me build a skate box out of wood stuff that he had. Let me come out and skateboard in the hockey rink behind his shop class at lunch. So in high school, I could go back there and skate by myself. This box I had forever and skated that in my yard. And then he, like I said, he saw the writing on the wall of wood shop and metal shop in the early 90s. Like, hey, this is probably getting played out. Technology is the way to go. So he started getting technology equipment in the shop, meaning some cameras or some editing equipment and stuff. So we did linear editing. For those of you who don't know, it's essentially tape to tape. It's just a cooler looking little board that we had to do that with. And he would let us use that equipment. After school, we could come in, edit video stuff on that, and we put together this video. But back then, if you changed anything in the middle, it left this gap of static, and then it would move on. So you have this whole opening credits, and as soon as the song's just about to kick off, it's like just about to hit that crescendo of music to go boom, and then right static, and then for about 10 seconds, and then it gets in and cuts in. So you miss the whole excitement of the first thing. But regardless, he let us put together that video. Somehow, I think I had 3 songs in my part. So, because we filmed everything. I had my first knee surgery in there and all that stuff. And then Scott Liska, because we were team riders for Borderline, let us show it right before a real movie premiered that he was showing at a coffee shop. So back then, you didn't have so much of a local movie scene at all, or any scene at all. So you would show professional movies in the fall, sell tickets to that, and get everybody excited and stoked for winter. So Scott let us show that first. Bertner, I think, also showed his movie that him and his friends made, and then that's when him and I started to talk, and then a couple years later, we came together and decided to start making a movie.
That's sick. And so that was just the beginning of JB Deuce then. So
yeah,
that's dope, man. So how do you think you got involved with Borderline and all that? Was it just you just shredding hard? I mean, they just noticed you out there, decided you put you on the team, or were you just hanging out, or what?
I was a little more proactive than that. I don't think I have any of these amazing stories where I was just doing my thing and somebody walked up and said, "Hey, here's a fat contract. Dude, you're awesome." With Borderline, it was simply being involved. The shop opened, so we were there all the time, and as often as I could get a ride to Anchorage to go check out the store, I was there, because it was like walking into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Whenever you walked into a skate shop, there was none of this. There was no internet at that point, so if you wanted to see something, you saw it in a magazine or you saw it at the shop. You walk into a shop and you go, oh, you see all these cool wheels and you see these snowboards, and everything was super cool, and you just got to check out everything that you wanted to, you didn't know was there, but now you get to see it in person. And so I started going to the shop. The shop would do events. I would show up to the skate ones and suck, because I've never been that good at skateboarding.
You were pretty good back in the day.
No, I wasn't. Not realistically compared to good people. I busted my ass super hard to try to be at the bottom of the barrel. I'm just being realistic. I'm not trying to just be modest or anything. Just realistically, I'm happy with the things I did on a skateboard, but realistically, Eric Ellington grew up here, and I remember watching him at jams behind Borderline, little contests, and I would say 93-ish or somewhere around that zone. He's switched 3 flipping on the quarter pipes and doing stuff like that. It just... Those dudes they were so good and so far beyond that you didn't even really see them around. So you thought you were doing sick stuff, and then realistically, these other people were over here just crushing.
His sponsor me tape from around that time for H Street is on the internet.
Yeah,
you can find it, and he has he's behind Ben Bokey skating the bank and skating the ledge, and then he has this launch ramp, and he's doing backside 540 bigger spins off of this launch ramp.
Yeah.
And wearing the hat with the baggy t-shirt and the long shorts, and you're just like, what the fuck? Today, even that would be insane for most people to do, off of a ramp like that. So it's that shit's nuts. I can't believe half the stuff you guys did back then on those boards and the ramps. It's ridiculous.
I got sidetracked from your question, as I usually do, and just start running my mouth. But what I was going to say was, I just went to a lot of events that Borderline put on. And in the snowboarding fall, you'd do trampoline contests and all this stuff. Yeah.
For sure.
And I did whatever I could. And then I started competing in USASA stuff and just started showing up. And then I started being around those guys, and you'd get to know them because they were all doing those contests too. And you start to talk, and then you say, hey, do you guys have a team? What's going on? And I remember walking in and having a distinct conversation with Jay Liska, who was the man, because he was a pro snowboarder as well as the shop owner originally. And I went in and said, I want to get sponsored. And he's like, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, I want to get sponsored for free riding. He's like, they don't sponsor people for that. You got to win some contests. So then it was... Back then, that's how it was. You had to do contests, as many as you can. You had to race, put the hard boots on, and try to do that.
Gross.
You had to do half pipe. That was the only freestyle thing going at that time. And so I started to get some results. And then I remember calling up one time and saying, I knew I had to buy a board for the winter, but I knew they were kind of considering me for the team. And there's a discount that comes with being on the team. So I was like, hey, did you decide if I'm on the team or not? And they're like, I don't know. And and I was like, because I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to buy my board. And it wasn't like I wasn't going to buy a board, but and I remember Jay going, it was either Jay or Scott was on the phone, and they pulled the phone away and talked to the other one. I was like, hey, Jason, you want to put him on the team? Yeah. All right, cool. Let's go. And they're like, cool. And then I went in and bought my board with the discount, and that was it from there on. And yeah, it just became this, I don't want to say cultish. That's the wrong word, but it was, you just fell in love with your local thing that was going on. This was our scene, and it was magical, and everything in our universe revolves around it. So, you had the guys behind the counter one day, and then at the contest you'd see them ripping, and you saw them everywhere. They were living that lifestyle, and you just wanted to be every part of it that was there. I want to be in that shop. I want to ride for that shop. I want to be around these people. And it was just a magical thing that drew you in and made you fall in love with it. I mean, we were already obviously in love with skating and snowboarding, and this just was a whole new realm of it that just made you head over heels about the whole scene.
Your getting on the team story is so similar to mine. It's ridiculous. They did the same shit. Scott, huh? You fucking rip? All right, cool, you're on. Grab some shit. Get the fuck out. And you're like, what? You're in, dude. Yeah, that shit's wild. Those guys were the best.
So do you think that, like, with you getting on Borderline, do you think that, like, really opened the door up for other things as far as, like, maybe future sponsors you had and stuff like that? I mean, were they the type of guys that were actually, talking to people and being like, hey, we got this guy?
A little bit. So the next year, after the first year I was on there, the next year I bought a Morrow spoon nose from those guys, and then the board broke right away, and they just gave me another one. And basically we're like, they had a really good relationship with Morrow, and they're like, cool, this kid's pretty good, let's just give him another board, put him on the board and get him going. And but there was they weren't really facilitating the next level for us. They were, those guys were busy building our scene up. And hopefully people like Rick Malone and those guys don't take offense to that, because it has an asterisk by it. The scene was so much further rooted than that, but that was when our scene really exploded. Borderline really put it on the map in a grand level, and they took what all the seeds that those early guys planted with all their work and dedication to skating and snowboarding, and made that blow up into something huge. So but no, I had to pursue that. And the funny thing is, I tried to get on Burton because whatever reason, I was from sports background previously, so I was pretty
wrestled and played baseball, right?
That I did. So I was a real big baseball player in California. I moved up here in the spring. I punched a kid in the face at school and broke my hand, got a boxer's fracture. And so I couldn't play the beginning of the season. And I decided, okay, cool, well, I'm just going to skip that then, and I'm going to go skateboard in Hawaii, spend the summer out there. And that that was the summer I was like, cool, I'm gonna ollie, I'm gonna do all this stuff. Went out there, skated, and team sports was over.
So punching the kid was totally worth it.
It pretty much, yeah, I would say. You never know, it could have really taken me down a different path. I mean, I'm not really advocating that you should punch somebody so it takes you to a better place, but unless you want to.
I wish it would sometimes.
I mean, maybe for Dom, maybe for if you're into MMA, but I definitely don't advocate just punching people. But back to that side of things, it definitely took me down a different path and let me focus on that skating stuff. I still did wrestling up here because I was introduced to wrestling through gym class when I moved up here, something we didn't do in California, and something about being a young angsty male to be able to get your aggression out like that, be able to essentially be allowed to fight with somebody else and not get in trouble and not have hard feelings afterwards. It was like a 100-pound version of Fight Club, so you got to do that, and it's all about this imposing your will on somebody else in that manner, and then they do it to you too. So I wasn't that great at it. I was good enough to be middle of the road, and I got served all the time, but it teaches you another good lesson. I think it's probably just like kids who get into martial arts. When you do wrestling or something like that, it teaches you to feel confident because you can handle yourself in situations that you wouldn't have prior to that.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good thing for me until middle of high school when I found myself lying to the coach because there was a powder day at Arctic Valley on a Wednesday, and I told the coach I went in with this other kid on the wrestling team who skied, and we were like, my mom needs us to help move some stuff to Anchorage, so we got to go after school today. We can't do wrestling practice. And then we just booked up to Arctic Valley and rode POW all day. And that was when I realized, well, I should probably just say goodbye to wrestling because that's not where my heart's at. Let's just dedicate to the stuff you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the wrestling coach was my homeroom teacher, so I had to look him in the face the rest of high school and deal with that. But I don't remember where we were going. I just
talking about you trying to get sponsored. You said you wanted to be on Burton at first.
Yeah, sorry. Man, I am the king of tangents. Just head off in another direction.
I think he gets the crown for you. He should use that song. The Run DMC song. You talk too much.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to get sponsored. I wrote the Burton rep a letter asking to be sponsored, saying like, hey, here's what I've, you kind of send a little resume, you present yourself, hey, this is what I'm about, so on and so forth. And he wrote back, and I told Scott Lisk about it, and he was like, well, we don't sell Burton. What good does that do to have you on Burton? And I was like, oh, I guess you're right. That doesn't help much. And so that guy denied me, though. So probably good luck there. And I kept that letter. So sorry, competitive. I wanted to do the best I could at stuff. I was cool with being in competitions and stuff. And so I went for Burton because I saw Burton as like the pinnacle of snowboarding at that time. So you want to go for the best thing and be a part of the best thing. I wrote to them, got denied, kept the letter, still have it to this day, saying, sorry, couldn't bring you on the team. That was just the regional rep. And he's like, nah, sorry, you're not that rad. And then Borderline started to carry Burton, and a year later, I think I went to Nationals and had Rick Malone introduce me to the team manager, and he's like, yeah, I'll keep an eye on you while we're here. And he watched me, and then that summer, I graduated high school. I went to Mount Hood and worked as a digger at High Cascade, and they said, cool, when you go out there, we have a Burton house. We'll make sure you get on boards to ride for the summer. And so they would just loan me out boards to ride. And then by the end of the summer, I remember back then we didn't have cell phones or anything, so you'd have to get your calling card out and call on the payphone.
That's my password for almost everything is my old calling card. No one will ever guess it.
So I dialed this guy up and I was like, hey, his name was Mike LaVecchia, and I was like, hey, Mike, so I just, I was down here and wondered how things were going, what you guys thought of stuff, and he's like, yeah, Jason, well, I think we're actually going to put you on the factory team. And so after I dropped the phone and picked it up again, and I was super stoked, and I got to kind of skip that regional rep rider type thing, and they put me on a factory. That didn't mean money or anything. It just meant you were dealing with actual Burton and not a rep.
The rep.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to do any of that stuff.
Not really, no. So that was
so lucky.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's luck. I mean, there's a bit of luck to it, but really it boils down to I rode hard every day, all summer long. Yeah. I was friendly with people, had a decent attitude with those guys. And that's where it goes. I didn't pester people. I didn't do any of that. I just shut up and I rode every day hard, and they noticed, and it moved me forward. And so I got on that situation. I came home that fall. I got my first box of stuff, and I still have the first jacket I got from those guys, and one of my first boards from them. So that was the story of how I got on there, and I had to kind of facilitate my own sponsorships from after getting on Borderline.
Damn, that's sick, dude. So, I don't know, I could only imagine how stoked you would have been, them telling you you're going to get on that factory team, dude. Were you just, blown away that you just got to go skip over that, or what?
Yeah, I was probably young enough and ignorant enough to not really understand. I knew it was a big deal. just the term factory team at that point. I mean, I think that's when Oakley had stickers that said factory pilot, and you kind of understood that a little bit, you know, but I was just focused on snowboarding, and I thought sponsorship would be cool, but nobody mentored me in that. Nobody took me aside and said, this is how it's going to be, so keep your eyes open or anything. You were just kind of going and taking it how they gave it to you. And nobody really mapped out, hey, this is how it normally goes. I figured that out later. You know, I figured out, oh, cool, rep, team, and all that. But I did realize I skipped over a step, and that was cool. But I don't think I had any idea that that was as big of a deal as it. I don't even know if it was that big of a deal, but it felt good, you know? It's a little bit of an ego boost. You're like, oh, wow, man, that's cool that you think that I'm good. And because they could have just as easily said, cool, pass, and you would have done your best to keep a good attitude and keep moving forward. My world wouldn't have been crushed at that point. I mean, I'd already gotten a no letter from that guy saying you suck. Not in so many words, but he basically said, dude, you have nothing to show me. Yeah. No, I'm not going to give you stuff. And I'm like, cool, I'm just going to keep going.
Kind of almost like drives you more.
It does.
Because that happened to me a long time ago. Mike Sinclair said that I skated too slow and that I needed to skate bigger shit when I was young. And I was like, oh. Damn.
Same thing I tell you every time?
Well, yeah, you and Dylan, actually.
I don't think I tell you slow. I think what I tell you is that I see bigger potential for you. I look at a lot of people, and I grew up in this Rocky era, you know, where you see some guy getting pounded into oblivion and he perseveres. He doesn't quit. It's all heart. And so that's kind of my life's viewpoint. And I look at potential more than I look at a lot of other things. So I see Dakota and Caleb and Tim and people like that, and I really try to give these impassioned pleas to them to say, hey, don't settle for what you think is good. Push beyond that, because you're capable. You never know what you're capable of. I'll never even know what I was capable of. I can see in my own career that I could have pushed harder. I mean, I felt like I was pushing at the time. I was pushing, but you could always have pushed harder. And now that that time in my life is gone, I'll never get that chance to push in that way, in that situation again. And I don't want these guys to miss out on that, you know? And Tim's getting at a point where he's starting to mention how old he is all the time, which you can tell from his skating and stuff, he's not old. But when you start talking yourself into that every day, then you will get old fast. And so what I'm always telling Tim, not so much of speed up or anything, but I'm like, go bigger, push yourself to do tougher tricks because you have it in you. So do it. You know, you need to get over the ego of saying, hey, I want to be able to land this a bunch in front of people. You need to be willing to have everybody go home that night and go, dude, that guy, I saw that guy at the park today, sucks. And know, okay, in your heart that it doesn't matter what they thought, because you were practicing and you were getting to a new point. You just had to take these lumps and these tough steps. You know the journeys on there. That kind of thing happened to me at Squaw Valley. Squaw Valley, where I would move to in the winter, there was a chairlift that had 2 jumps in it in a row, and it had the lift going right by it, and it was the snowboard version of a cherry park or something like that. You know, it was the spot, and any given day, half the pros you would see in video parts or big air contests were hot lapping these 2 jumps and practicing their tricks and trying new stuff or whatever it was. But and I was trying to learn, I don't remember what the trick was, but I was trying to learn something that wasn't that technical or anything. It was just a different grab on a style of thing that I wanted to learn that I wasn't good at. And I kept slamming, and Ben Hinckley, who was a teammate from Burton, went up and he was like, dude, man, good for you for slamming all day and not caring about it. And I could have taken that route where I worried about what I look like in front of everybody, or I can say, I don't care what I look like. What's going to matter is when I go out to film, or when I go out to do a contest, I'm going to have this figured out. And then that's when it's going to matter. You know, what you guys think today doesn't matter. It's one day. It's just a little glimpse of what I'm doing. And I try to get that across to others, and hope that they can see that bigger picture. If you want to push your skating or snowboarding to the best you can be, then you just have to drop the ego at the door and say, I don't care who thinks I suck.
Exactly. Like, I feel like I'm 34 years old, and I do feel like I'm past that age where I get sponsored for skateboarding, but like I'll find myself at the skate park and trying the hardest possible trick I can do, and I might not land that shit like all day long, and it's like you say, like I almost feel like the skateboarders are there hot lapping, I guess, like you're talking about on a snowboard and like landing everything, dude. But like I'm still satisfied at the end of the day that I'm 34 years old, and you know, I'm trying my best to progress, even though I may feel like there's no future in it for me anymore. But
well, it's not even about having a future. I mean, why do you start doing it to begin with?
Just because I love it.
It's like how Jason said, like, it wasn't really, like, the whole point wasn't to, like, get the contract. It was just this thing that happened while you were doing what you were doing, you know, and people take notice of it. And it's, some people, I mean, like, dudes that do all the contests, you know, like Jaeger Eaton's a perfect example. He had the ability to do that stuff because he had a skate park and went to all the contests, and that's his like life. But that's not why you start skateboarding to begin with. You do it because you love it, and it's like fun, and you have great friends, and none of that other stuff really in the long run really matters.
Well, the love comes a little later. I mean, I didn't love it the first time I got on the board. I was like, cool, this is fun. And then that develops into love for it. But I tried to figure out a way to just focus on being the best I could be. That way, I've always got a goal. Doesn't matter if it's, you know, like at 43 now, I can figure out how to try to be better today than I was yesterday, and that can still be a goal. Whereas if you set your goal at like, cool, I have this level of money or something, or I want to win this or whatever, and that's my pinnacle goal. Once you do that, then you can become bored or over it or burn out or whatever. And if you just figure out how to make it all about improving yourself every chance you're given, then you can have more fun with those challenges that you encountered when you first started. You know, when you first started, you suck. You try to do a trick, you can't do it all day long, but you keep at it because you're facing that challenge.
It's an obsession, really. When you're at that point as a kid, and you're trying over and over and over. I mean, who did that interview where they said you can pick up Chris Haslam said anybody can pick up a basketball and throw it into the hoop, right? You can learn how to do that really easy, but to do like any crazy skate trick, it takes days, months. Sometimes you won't even do it that summer. You have to come back to it.
Let's stop just for a second here, and let's put this out there in the air. For anybody who thinks that basketball or golf or tennis or baseball is some miracle of physical perfection, of dexterity or things like that, and they think that that's above skateboarding or snowboarding, is completely delusional, and they can go to hell because they don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not to take away from the skill. Very super skilled athletes, very athletic people. But you, in none of those instances, do you have to have the physical coordination that it takes to do what high-level skateboarders and snowboarders do.
Yeah.
And if you want to argue that, please feel free to come by the shop anytime. We can get into that about how you need to take medication because you're insane if you think that what Daewon does on a skateboard can be duplicated by Tom Brady. If Tom Brady spent his entire life doing that, forget about it. You know, and there's so few people in the world that can do it compared to these athletes, you know?
Daewon's like one of those special dudes.
That's what I'm getting at, though. If you take the top of the top in any of those sports versus the top of the top, you want to, I mean, people can hate on Shaun White all they want. To do what he does in a half pipe is unreal. Yeah. Most snowboarders can't touch that. So for you to think that you can fly 20, if Jordan thought that somehow he could figure out how to fly 22 feet out of a 22-foot half pipe over and over and spin and flip 3 times and over in a row again and again and again and again, you're insane.
Yeah.
You know, try to compare that, what Shaun White did in a half pipe, or what any given dude does, and I'm sure I'll get roasted by all the core street dudes, so let's throw in some street dude like Danimals or something. So anyway, I'm with those guys too. I'm putting them on the same level. I'm using this huge name to make a point, you know. If you think that dunking from the free throw line is remotely close to what those guys are doing in a half pipe, you're high. You're insane. So anyway, that's the end of that rant. But
I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I played basketball in high school, and I played almost every sport except for hockey and football. But it's like skateboarding is so different. Like, you can't just you have to be so have a crazy mind and be so gifted naturally to hop on it within a year, be better than half the dudes in town, you know. It's rare for that to happen, but it's you're right, no one can just do it.
I'm not taking away from what
they are, but it's a different type of athleticism.
Yeah, you know? LeBron is obviously a freak of nature in his abilities and his skill set and his athleticism, but don't try to talk to me about how that's even close to what the best skaters do on a board or the best snowboarders.
Dude, the risk alone. Look at Nija's part. All those rails could have been.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, Nija. Just forget about it. Show that to any of them. You know, those guys cry when they fall 3 feet onto the floor.
Like a soccer fall.
Yeah, get out of here, dude. And that's daily. You know.
Dude, I just I feel like the skateboarders and snowboarders are a little bit more accepted these days. But dude, I didn't understand why we were so hated back in the day. I remember in probably 1996, dude. Probably my second year skateboarding, being in middle school, and I was walking into the school, and 2 football players were walking out, and instantly they're like, oh. They're like, oh, what's up, faggot?
Dude.
What are you doing? You going to ride your gay-ass little skateboard? And I ended up, I'm being a skateboarder is
And also Dylan being the kind of guy that used to whip everyone's ass back in the day. He would don't talk shit.
Well, I threw down with these guys, man. I got the living shit kicked out of me that day, dude. But I mean, I still went home with the satisfaction that I busted this kid's glasses into his face with my skateboard, dude. And but now it's more accepted, but I just never understood why they hated us so much, dude. Is it because they couldn't do what we were doing?
No, it's human nature, dude.
Well, so what's funny is the experience you had versus what I had, because by the time 96 came around, I thought, well, sick, they're finally accepting us all. Because, it was nonstop skater fag, this, and it's all weird how it was all revolved around homophobia.
For sure.
But you're right. So a little bit of my theorizing on this is that it's different. It was not widely seen, and that was the point where I say collectively, we started to dress a little bit more fringe, a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And I think that you could see the attitude of skateboarders. I'm just going to use skateboarders because snowboarding was a little bit later on, but skateboarders in general basically had this attitude of cool, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not as interested in what the mainstream cool thing is to do, and that's okay. I'm okay with this. And at that time, that's why you saw a lot of artists in skateboarding and a lot of different people that were not so much embraced by mainstream culture going towards skateboarding. That was an area where the different people could be welcomed in. And there's something threatening to the typical cool kid at school, that when they're, we're all struggling at that age to figure ourselves out, to figure out our place amongst everyone. Like there's no manual on how to be 13 or 15 or whatever around a bunch of people where you feel insecure, you don't know what's going on, you feel judged every minute of the day. And so any ounce of cool that you have, you feel could be threatened at any point. And so if you're some jock guy who's like, cool, I'm obviously the cool kid, I date the hot cheerleader chick, if that coolness is threatened by somebody walking by who doesn't care that you're cool, who doesn't give a shit, who doesn't value the same things that you value, walks by and puts it in your face that like, dude, I don't give a shit about your priority list, that's threatening.
Yeah.
And so they backlash at that. And so myself, I can look at on the other side of the spectrum. When I was in those early ages, I knew that I was going in this straight edge direction. And I aggressively put that out there. And I think when I look back on it and try to figure out why was I so aggressive towards it, why was I so militant about it, and I think that's because I was trying to figure myself out. And you push your own values out even harder because you're kind of trying to convince yourself at the same time as convincing everybody else. And so I'm trying to be like, oh yeah, fuck drugs, fuck alcohol, and fuck you if you do them. And when I put that out there like that, I was reinforcing my own thoughts. Maybe I wasn't fully convinced. I felt like it at the time, but in hindsight, I can look back and try to pick that apart. And maybe that's why I was doing that. Maybe that's why I was so aggressive about it. Because now I don't care if you choose to do that or whatever. We can still be friends. But at that time, I was not going to allow myself to be surrounded by any of that. I didn't want to be distracted by it. I just was so fucking in love with skateboarding and snowboarding 24/7, 100%. That's all I cared about. And I didn't want anything getting in the way of that.
To stop you from...
Not getting in the way of it as in, I don't want to be distorted when I go to do a trick and be a jock, Not like that. What I mean is, why would I want to go to a party and hang out with people trying to gain their favor, trying to look cool to them and get them to think I was cool, when I could watch a skate video at home? That's how into it I was.
I would back rather then is like me right now.
Yeah, I would rather watch or just fucking dunk myself 100%, drown myself in skating and snowboarding and my one or two friends that would feel the same all the time. And I didn't want anything distracting me from that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but that, to your question, I think it's all just us trying to figure life out. And
I think no matter what generation
but
that you talk about, like, cause you're 12 years older than me. Dylan's 4 years older than me. And I feel like it doesn't matter what generation of skateboarding you came from, all that shit still happens. Because I had a similar thing happen. Walked in the first day of school. One of my really good friends from Fairbanks, her now ex-husband, I got into a fight with him the first day because of something like that. Because I was like the skater kid that was like, I was stoked to be there, and I don't know what the whole situation was, but it's like human nature. When you don't understand something, it flows like water. It's not structured. It's not linear. There's no rules. It's people if they don't want to understand it, they won't. They will just push it away as much as they can. And that goes for anything. That goes for any ideal you have in your life. Like if they don't want to understand it, then they just go, nah, fuck, that's whack. I don't want to do that. Like, get away from me kind of deal,
We're not that open as young people.
No, not at all.
We're not
really.
very open to stuff. We kind of grab a thought based on either what your parents kind of put in your head or your peer group, and anything else is lame. And it's just, you can see younger people being super aggressive and aggro about so many things that don't mean anything.
Because in 10 years, they won't even remember why that they felt that way about that thing.
And I'm not saying that I wasn't the same way. I was super aggressive at that age. And, you have all this pent-up stuff as a male that's, I don't know, unless you're just real meek, then you're trying to assert yourself. I think there's something primal in that you have to survive. When I went to high school, I felt constantly threatened. I felt like at any point in time a fight could break out with anybody that I walked by, and you always felt this fear of like, am I going to be able to handle myself? Am I going to be able? And you're sizing everybody up and stuff, and I don't know. It wasn't like it ran my life and you couldn't function, but there was this idea that the older kids would trash you, dump you upside down, put you in the trash bin, and all these hazing things you hear about going into high school. And the dudes that were in seniors in the football and wrestling team looked enormous. They looked humongous. And I remember wrestling, heavyweight was like 185, so that's not that big now. But like it looked like giants, like they look like NFL players, and you're like, I'm going to get crushed if I got in a fight with that guy. And so you're constantly on edge as a young male in that situation, and then you start to feel like you've figured out these ways to assert yourself, whether it's through your voice inflection or I'm cussing more than I should or whatever, to try to puff your chest a little and make sure that to give yourself a better chance of not getting messed with. Really though, all the older people are like, just chill, little man, and you don't get it, but that's your way of learning. That's like the little cub trying to learn how to hunt with the mom right behind him. You're trying to figure your way out in this world and doing the best you can with it. And that was just my experiences. I felt like violence was always a possibility and imminent, and dude, that you had to watch out for it.
Where we grew up, it was like almost every other day someone was getting beat up. Like,
I'm not trying to say it was like Gangsterville. I'm not trying to say like, oh, from the streets and all that,
but it's a real thing.
But it just felt like, you had fights in high school all the time in the 90s, and now it's a whole different no tolerance policy and all that stuff.
That kind of started when I started to get out of high school, was the no tolerance policy. Because I remember in middle school, kids would get into fights and like it would end before someone came, and now it's like you can't even, they have security guards everywhere, teachers are ready to snatch them up, and they both get in trouble whether or not one kid started the whole thing.
To bring the tangent back around, I was just trying to bring it to that's possibly why everyone was so hateful to skateboarders.
If I had $1 for every time some dude yelled do a kickflip out of a big truck, I could pay my rent for like 3 months. It's insane. Like, that was so normal.
I just didn't like being called a fag. That shit drove me nuts.
I don't even hear anybody say that anymore.
It was the jocks called me a fag in my mind. I'm like, you motherfuckers. You guys are in the locker. You guys got like 20 dudes taking a shower together, fucking slapping each other's asses before the game, dude. Like, you calling me a faggot, dude? Like,
that's the funny thing. When I wrestled, you would always get that, oh, you like to roll around on a mat with a guy with his tights on. When you wrestle, you're like, obviously that's not what we're doing.
Well, that's a good point, though. That's like what I'm saying is like they didn't wrestle and they didn't understand why you did it, and they were like, well, that's super gay of you to do, and you're like, really? Is it really that gay?
You know it's funny. So in my time, the jocks were the cool dudes, right? And that helped me. I felt like it bridged the gap a little for me to not get as much shit as I could, because you snowboard, you skateboard, but you wrestle, so cool, we'll kind of let it go.
Get a little bit of a pass.
I really feel like I didn't catch as much shit from the main dudes because that was my way of getting to know them.
Yeah.
So they weren't giving me as much grief about it. But the randoms, yeah, for sure, all the time. And anytime you were out of there.
Dude, I always wonder, like, why when you're in school, like, someone you've never talked to will just pick you out of a crowd, you know? Like, that's happened to me growing up. Just, like, randoms.
For me, it's because I'm ugly.
You know?
The weird thing was for me, dude, is like I did move to Woodland Park, Colorado for a while, and it was like this super rich like town, dude, and I was like, oh man, like I had to go live with my dad, and I was like, fucking rich town, dude.
Ballin'.
Yeah, and I was like, the first thing I thought of was like, oh, it's gonna be prep city and this and that, and everybody's gonna hate me. And this was the weirdest town I ever been to because it was the exact opposite. Skateboarders were the cool kids. Like, I went to a party, dude, and all of a sudden there was like all these hot preppy chicks hanging out with the skateboarders and shit. And I was like, all right, this is
Too bad you guys were all fags.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Man, those were good times, though. But all right, man, moving on. So like, I guess really, so you started riding for Burden. You were on a factory team rider, dude, but you I mean, you weren't making money yet. Like, when do you think you really like crossed that threshold and actually, making money as a snowboarder?
I made money from contests way more than I ever made money from pay.
I think that's what most people that grew up watching you know you from is from like your contests.
Yeah, I was lucky to have a mindset that was able to handle that pressure and to be able to kind of step up and hit those buzzer shots, so to speak. So I guess being from normal sports before I started doing that helped maybe. But yeah, what was the question again?
It was
When'd you cross that?
Yeah.
When did the threshold happen?
So you want to hear about my threshold?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your safe word?
Yeah. So I would snowboard. I went to a year of college here and worked at the shop part-time and tried to snowboard. So school full-time, work part-time, trying to snowboard constantly. And realized at the end of that it was real difficult to do all those. And so I said, Mama, I'm a rolling stone. I got to go. And this opportunity only comes along once. B-Rabbit will tell you that. And I got to go. So I worked at Borderline. I saved all my money. I didn't go to school again in the fall. Saved up enough. I went down to Tahoe and lived in a trailer with 3 other dudes in I think it was a single wide, and just snowboarded as much as possible. I lived in a trailer park and snowboarded, and I won a pro contest still as an amateur kid at that point, and made like $1,000 or $1,200 and thought that was amazing. I was driving a car the size of probably the VHS camera that I had. It was a Subaru Justy that had 4-wheel drive though. So I was happy as a clam, none of that stuff mattered. All that mattered was trying to get as good as possible, and not for a goal of money or cribs or any of this shit that you see in our culture at this point. But I just wanted to be the best snowboarder I could be, and I was in this new place that allowed me to get those skills up a lot further. And so I went through that year. I came home, I worked at the shop, and that became a habit for about 3 or 4 years. I would live about 6 months in Tahoe, and I would work the other 6 months and then live as cheap as I could. And I would just save all my money. I didn't party. I didn't buy anything other than stuff.
So that's how you did it.
I didn't buy anything other than what I had at the shop. If I needed jeans or shoes or something, I'd buy those through my discount at the shop, and that was it. And then I snowboarded, and then in '96, they had the Burton U.S. Open, and I went out there because we had nationals around similar time, and I think I wanted to do the half pipe, but they were doing this new thing called Big Air. Really, it was tiny air. It was the most awful, ridiculous looking thing that you could imagine. It was just this plowed up mound about 3 feet high, and then a gap of 20 feet or so, and then another mound down, and it was just a gap. And I said, how do you get into that event? I want to jump and do that. And they said, well, we've already got our pros picked for that, but you can write a letter petitioning to be in. So I sat down with pen and paper. I was like, what? I get a chance? So you're saying there's a chance. So I started writing this heartfelt letter about, hey, I ride for Burton. This is one of my only chances to show them what I've got and let them see that I have skills, and please let me in this event. And so I got in the event. And like I said, it was a joke of a thing, but I got so this was 95-ish. And I got, I'd have to look back, but like second or third maybe I tied or something like that. Anyway, that allowed them to say the next year was fucking ridiculous, because then it went from this joke of a jump to full-blown what you would see
A
cheese
real big
wedge,
air
kicker,
jump, yeah.
big air jumps. And that was 1996 winter, and 95, 96, and they let me do the jump. I did the jump. I didn't place at all, but I did decently on it. And so then the following year, they said, come on. Actually, I think it was that spring after the jump. I think that was the year Mac Dog was out there filming it, and he said, hey, you look good on the jump. Why don't you come back to Tahoe and give me a call? And so I called him, and I think I might have 1 year mixed up here, but let's just say for the sake of it, that's that year. I came back. I got to shoot at something in the spring. I did a trick on a backcountry jump. It didn't make it into the movie. I think I made one shot in the credits, and then it made a trick into a video magazine. That set me off for getting to film. Oh, sorry. That set me off for getting to film with Mac Dog. The next year, I was at the U.S. Open again, and I won the Big Air. So I win the Big Air. That was $5,000. And yeah, back then that's what you got. And now you get like 50 grand. So I didn't. I actually went that night, staying by myself, didn't party, and I was flying out the next day. I went to McDonald's, celebrated with a full supersized meal, and then went to bed and got on a plane in the morning and left. That's how I rolled. Cheap as shit my entire time, because I didn't care about any of that ball and stuff. I just cared about snowboarding. I was hyped that I did well amongst my peers, you know?
Yeah.
And not my peers. Let's get that straight. They were not my peers at that time. I was not, in my mind, I was not on their level. This was the first chance I got to say, whoa, maybe I could be on their level, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it was Peter Line and Jamie Lynn got second and third. And so I went from, I'm positive that fall I had watched those guys on Mac Dog movies and been like, oh, I want to learn that trick. I want to learn that trick. These are my heroes. To coming out there and winning this event, as surprised as anybody that I won. And then those guys saying, good job, you did a good job. And going, whoa, I could be here next to these guys. You know, I'm no longer
Outside looking.
Yeah, I mean, I still was a little bit, but I saw the potential to not just be on the outside looking in, and that was amazing. That's the summer I think I came home and was able to stop working, I think, at Borderline. I still wasn't getting a paycheck yet, so I won Burton U.S. Open Big Air, still was not getting paid by them. So I had a travel budget.
Who was getting paid back then?
I don't know, everybody but me.
They're like, dude, that guy used to wrestle. We're not going to pay him.
So I had a travel
That's bad.
budget where you spend your money and then they give it back to you so you can travel and try to do stuff. And but then that led me into an invite into the Summer X Games, where they were doing these scaffolding type jumps where they chew up
I've
ice
seen the
blocks
video
and
of that
spray
contest,
snow. Yeah. That's the one you have in the exposure video. So I got third in that, and then it was off to the races. So then that following winter, I go into the Winter X Games and I win the big air there. So within about a year, less than a year's time, I won the U.S. Open and the X Games big air. And then I think that's when I started to get a paycheck.
What did they pay you back then?
I think I started out with, I think it was $3,000 a month was my wage.
I could kill it on 3,000 even today.
Well, dude, I was balling like shit because I was still in the mindset of I don't spend any money.
Yeah.
I don't buy frivolous shit, and I was now making money, and I was winning money at these contests.
Yeah.
I got, I think, like $500 a month from the goggle sponsor. And so you put all that together, and all of a sudden, like, I'm like, cool, dude, I have a bank account. This is cool, and I don't have to go home and work. Now I can focus on just skateboarding and filming and doing that stuff. I wish that they had online stuff and everything, because I would have taken an online class or two and continued that on, but that really wasn't happening much at that point still, so I was just kind of... And of course, the age-old story of, all right, once it kicks in, you think it's not going to end. So, you know, you thought, cool. But realistically, I only had like 2 or 3 years. I only had 2 years where Burton actually gave me a paycheck.
Yeah.
And, but I would, like I said, I made a lot more on contests than I made on the paycheck and incentives. So you'd get an incentive for winning a contest, you'd get an incentive for your video part or your photos or whatever, and that's how I was able to buy a house and do stuff like that on only 2 years.
I feel like now it's still the same, even in skateboarding.
It's definitely not the same.
Well, I mean, if you have a shoe that sells really well, it's probably great, but board sales, probably not so much. It's not going to be like so lucrative. And then if you win contests like Street League, X Games, things like that, like that's a sick ass paycheck. What did they pay? 50 grand?
Yeah. For the contest, if you win now, then it's huge money. Yeah. You know, like, I mean, obviously Nigel won 3 or 4 things and he's a millionaire from Street League, right? So
well, the first Grand Prix, the first like Super Crown that he won, it was $150,000, and then it used to be $100K or $150K, and then now it's down to $50. But he's still, like, the amount of that he won, like, he is a millionaire from just those contests, not all the other stuff that he's done.
Yeah. So but nowadays it's super hard to get paid. So you know, that's why you've probably got more kids trying to be contest kids if they can. But when I was as blessed as you could be. I got to do it in the best time, when there could still be heroes in the sport, where people could make a living. It's super hard. I talk to team managers now. There's almost nobody really making a living without working another job in the summer. And that we're talking about good dudes. Mm-hmm. There's so many good snowboarders now, and I mean, people putting out lots of content.
Well, Danimals, he builds houses in the summer.
I mean, there's all kinds of people that are amazing snowboarders that can't rely solely on snowboarding.
And he's got a pro model boot, and he has had 2 boards now, and he still works in the summer because he has to.
Yeah. I mean, you can just thank the internet for that. The internet killed stars. It killed heroes, is what it did. Constant, non-stop content at your fingers whenever you want it killed heroes.
We talk about that in the second episode, how it gets lost in a timeline and it just kind of fades. You know, it's like, what's new? What's next? What's next? What's next? You don't hold on to, like, I remember all the old videos I used to watch, like Trilogy, In Bloom, like every Transworld video, and I would like watch them on repeat for entire summers, and just like that's all I idolize those guys like more than any of the dudes today. Like I don't really idolize anybody like how I used to when I was young.
Everyone's replaceable now. All it takes is open up your phone, and whoever you like the most is pretty easily replaced. And it's sad. It's sad that if Nyjah blows his knee out and never films another thing, I mean, is anybody going to be like, man, I can't believe there's no more Nyjah footage? You know, I mean, I'll
He's
always
arguably
wonder.
the most hated skateboarder.
Yeah, fuck all those guys. They're stupid. They just, like what that does is that helps people feel more core about themselves.
Yeah.
Like, and I know Dylan's like, man, I'm trying to hate right now on him.
Man,
but anyway,
I don't know about that.
no, but I think we have our opinions, and it's cool to get to be a fan of it too. Oh, I like this guy's style. I don't like that style. I don't, this, that, or the other. But realistically, if you're trying to not acknowledge the amazing talent, again, if you think, then Nyjah's been doing this since he was a pipsqueak. As small as you can get, and he was crushing it. To try to question that guy's heart and soul and dedication to skateboarding, you're an idiot. That's why you work in a dish pit instead of being a skateboarder, because you're focused on that. You're focused on hating instead of focused on skating.
Yeah.
That was not meant to be a Dr. Seuss moment.
No. Well, I mean, it's funny when people can't appreciate the skateboarding. They only focus on the things they don't like about the skateboarder. Like, I don't give a shit if he wears pants that are tight and wears sleeveless hoodies. It's the shit that he does is so amazing.
Yeah, it's
or
stupid.
even like, I had a friend that, I'm not even gonna say his name, but he doesn't like Thiago Limos for some reason. He's like, well, he fucking wears baggy pants and fucking does these, and I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
You don't like a guy that can literally pop shoulder high ledges and skate almost anything? It's insanity.
You know what somebody once said that I have found to be super true is that nobody more successful on me has ever thrown hate my way.
Oh, that's true.
And if you think about that, it's pretty true. So when you are hating all over somebody, think about, are you more successful than they are? Probably not.
It's never
because
the case,
you're focused
probably
on hating. You're focused on worrying about all that crap instead of focusing on building something. You're focused on tearing it down. Obviously, we know the clown that tries to troll our
dude, I always forget about that.
And we don't need
guy.
to talk about who it is or anything, but this person trolls like 5 or 6 people or whatever. So when you think about it, this person has at least 5 to 10 people he follows. Every day he's looking at their stuff, combing through it, hoping for content so he can hate on it. That's his day. Do you wonder why he's sitting at home doing that kind of... His biggest accomplishment is going to be like, look, I zinged this guy. Haha, I got you. Sick burn. Do you think that's going to make my store shut down? Do you think that's going to make somebody stop doing motivational speeches for a living? Do you think that any of that stuff's going to happen? No. And you're not going to get anywhere because you're focused on hating something instead of building something. And it's just funny. Nobody more successful at you is ever going to be hating on you.
I push it so far to the back of my mind, and until someone brings it up, I forget completely. That's how unimportant that kind of stuff is.
It's super unimportant. It's a exercise in being pathetic.
Yeah.
And all I'm trying to get across with it is, you think you're being funny and stuff. Well, it's not even funny, because I can take a good roast. I can appreciate a good roast, but it's not even really good. And 2, you're focusing all your attention and energy on trying to break something instead of trying to build something. And where is that going to get you? Yeah. It's not going to get you anywhere. Nobody's going to look at you and go, dude, you're the meme king.
Maybe if you're in high school now.
Your
memes are so sick.
Yeah.
So it's the one with the frog Pepe.
Yeah, but
awesome.
Even so, there's so many things you don't realize when you're young that you think are so meaningful.
Yeah.
And they won't mean shit. The people won't mean shit. None of it'll mean shit. If they're hating on your stuff, they're not going to be in your life 2, 3, 10 years from now. They'll just be if they're lucky, they might be a memory, but that's it. And we tend to focus on them as though, when you're in high school, you're like, oh, this kid I beefed with, oh my gosh, this is awful. This is the end of the world. And, the sky's falling. and that person won't be in your life in 2 years when you graduate. You'll never know about them again. That's it.
Most of the time, they don't even remember the stuff they did.
Yeah,
There's people I'm friends with now that did really shitty shit to me when I was a kid, and like they don't remember it the same way. You know, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it happened. Like you're saying, it's a memory of like what it was.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of transitioning into a little bit of motivation for the younger generation to not take things as seriously as you think they are. When you get into a tiff with your friends, or you get into this, or you think this is the end of the world, it's not the end of the world. Those people, if they haven't been positive in your life, they won't even be there later on. You know, I was not cool at all in high school or anything, and 5 years later after that, I was this guy who walked back in front of these people who wouldn't give me the time of day,
and now you're dope,
and was like, hey, cool, this guy won the X Games and stuff like that. You know, not, please don't, why do we have to temper everything with these things? But I'm not saying that's the end all be all of anything, or that made me cool. What I'm saying is I followed my dreams when those people ended up just working a shitty job and hating their lives. They got to have their 15 minutes of cool in high school, didn't want to give me the time of day because I was nerdy and into skateboarding and wearing huge pants and stupid stuff like that.
You should bring those back.
And it's already happening. But anyway, I thought that was something that I wished, you know, like, oh, I wish people would have been nicer, or I wish, you know, like girls would have given me 5 minutes of their time or whatever at that time. But really, you just keep pushing forward and your shit will happen. And those people who focused on thinking they were too cool for everything are gonna get stuck.
Dude, I've seen it in my life. I went to my 10-year reunion thing a long time ago, and it was wild. Like in Fairbanks, when I was growing up, it was, if you were a baseball player and you were really good, like that was the cool kid. Like they were really fucking cool. And there's like some dudes that I was always like, man, I wish, you know, they got the hot chick and they got the cool truck and they're so cool. And then like 10 years later, I'm just like, dude, you look tore back like a floor jack. What happened? You know, like it's just insane to think that like that can happen so easily. You know, like those are the people that would like shit on you the most, and now it's like nothing might happen after that. You know, it's wild. Maybe it's just skateboarders. I feel like.
Moral of the story, kids, is focus on what you want and don't be distracted, because you'll get there if that's the kind of energy you put into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a bumper sticker here, but really, I mean, just where do you want to put your energy? What matters to you? Is it going to matter to you that you went to a sick party 10 years from now, or is it going to matter to you that you got a shot because you worked for that thing and you skipped the party and you made that happen, or got sponsored, or, you know, sponsorship doesn't even matter. Who cares about that? What matters is, did you get that sick POW day because you got up early, you went to bed early, you skipped the party and all that, or are you hungover and you missed those sick days with your friends and having a good, meaningful day out with other people, other human beings, and socializing and interacting in something that you're passionate about? Or are you going to clown off and let these things distract you from that? Yeah. What's going to mean something to you 10 years from now?
Yeah, that's accurate for sure. I guess it has to go in with like people having pride and stuff. I feel like a lot of young kids are fairly cynical in that sense, where they don't really take any ownership or pride in a lot of things that they do. And that's just speaking from experience. I deal at the shop with a lot of young kids, you know, and it's like there's good kids and there's kids that just don't give a shit. Really, they're like, it's whatever, like I don't care. And you're just like, you should care. You should care a lot, because these next like 5 years of your life are gonna make or break what might happen down the road. It's developmental to your life.
You know where I did get the luckiest, I think, is other than having supportive family that constantly said, oh, you can do whatever you want to do. The luckiest I think I ever got was that I was passionate about something. You know, I see so many other people that just don't have passion towards anything. They're wandering around lost, trying to figure out they want to they want something to come in and take them over the way skating and snowboarding did for me.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen for them, if they're trying to figure it out and they don't stumble upon that thing, then they get drifted off into other things that might not be good for them or might just lead them to an unhappy life. Mm-hmm. So I got super lucky in that I stumbled upon something that I could be super passionate about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it wasn't for me like picking up a snowboard, like asking for one, I wouldn't have even started skating. If it wasn't even for skating, I wouldn't be here right now. My life could have been totally different. Like, who's to say what would have happened? You know, it's that probability. So it gives you like
probably some Craigslist stuff.
Yeah, you know, the back page. I need a cuddle. That's Dylan, actually. He likes cuddling. He's a good man.
I feel the same way, dude. If I wouldn't have found skateboarding, I would have been down a whole different path. Because when I started skateboarding, I was probably one of the lowest points of my life. I was living in and out of a car with my mom, homeless, dude, and I felt alone. I didn't understand what was going on, and I got a skateboard, and that just like it gave me a whole nother thing to put my faith into, dude. And I never got sponsored or anything like that, dude. And like, but it's still, I feel like it changed my life, and I'm still gonna keep doing it every single day, and I still love it, dude. And I'm passionate about it, and I don't know, man. I think we fall in love for these things for a reason, dude. Like,
that's a testament to like what I said, you know, like how it's like it's unlike anything else, you know. I played sports, and it's like you can't explain it to a normal person why do you want to like go out and try to jump on this rail over and over and over and over again, and it's like you just can't explain it to him, to a cop, to somebody, and business owner at the place you're skating, to like your friends that don't skateboard. Like, they just don't understand why you want to keep doing it. And it's like, I'm past that point too, you know. Like, it's like I'm not gonna go pro, and it's not gonna happen, but that's not why I do it, you know. I think, even like today, I was thinking about skateboarding for like an hour because I just like want to skate so bad, no matter what. Like, I'm thinking, like, I thought maybe I could shovel my road on my street because it's all slushy, and like if it doesn't snow again, it'll be just dry enough to where I could like do some flat ground out front. And that's the love for it, is like by any means necessary, I will try to skateboard. And that's like a lot of kids in town, I feel like Alaska, like they go to 9th and K, which is like not the craziest place to skate, and it doesn't have much, but it's like,
go ahead and bleep that out. I'm not trying to blast that place up.
Well, everyone knows they actually put a sign. Yeah, they put a sign up there that basically states that we can pretty much skate there. The security guards just go, hey, just go and come back, you know. Like, they're pretty cool about it now, but it's that's like a testament to how much skateboarders give a shit about skateboarding, because you'll go to a parking garage at 30 degrees below, it's like below the point of freezing, and you're still out there for 5 hours like trying to skate no matter what.
That's a testament to how much greater they see having skateboarders in their spot than tweakers.
Which is, yeah, that's, you can't, it's not normal, I think, you know, like normal people don't get it. So,
man, it's not just here either. I remember being 13 years old in Fairbanks doing that shit, except it'd be like 20 below.
Oh, the cop garage?
The cop garage.
Yeah, the cop garage was
the federal
dope
building, dude. And I don't know.
Dude, that was the best. Yeah, I would do the same thing because I lived 2 blocks away, and I would go there with like gloves, long johns, the whole thing. And I like my MP3 player, I would have about 20 minutes before the battery died because it was so fucking cold all the time. And you just skate that curb and then the ledge, like the drop ledge.
See, that's why I got into snowboarding, because then I didn't feel like, oh, I have to go out and put myself in this miserable spot to skateboard.
Yeah.
You know, I could distract myself from that with snowboarding. I could make that my winter thing, and then as soon as it started to melt out, cool, we're on the skateboard.
You're like the polar op. Like, I started snowboarding way before I started skating, and then when I started skating, it was like that was what I was like really obsessed with. And I still love snowboarding like more than any other thing in my life besides skateboarding. But it was like I'd always, even when I'm snowboarding, I'm like, God, I just want to skate a ledge or something. I just want to go roll on the concrete, you know? Like, it's not, they're so, like you said, they're so different. They're not the same thing, but you can, like, have the similarity and enjoy it the same type of way. Yeah.
Man. All right, man, so I feel like, so pretty much, like, I guess so, like, video killed the radio star.
Mm-hmm.
The internet killed the video star.
True.
Like, I mean, what do you think your feelings are about, like, everything now? Because I remember, like in '96, dude, you guys like started making these borderline videos, and it's like you said, like, borderline was like, to me, it was like that was Alaska. That was Alaska skateboard and snowboard culture right there, and I loved every little bit of it back then, dude. And like 100% came out, dude, and just I wore the shit out of that video, dude, all day long, man. And I just wanted to be part of that so bad, dude. And it kind of sucked up in Fairbanks because I think like our borderline location in the Bentley Mall actually shut down for a while. So I was like, you know, when I feel like I was really starting to like peak in like my younger years of skateboarding, like that shut down, and I don't know, that was a real bummer for us. But then, like, right as I was moving, like, I moved to Colorado, and right as I was moving away, the Weedmeyers decided they were going to open a location, and they ended up opening the Safeway location, I guess. And
well, wasn't it was in the annex, and then it was in the mall, and then it disappeared and went to the other side of town, right?
I don't remember, it was so long ago, but I just remember being so bummed out that, like, that it shut down in Fairbanks, dude, and I didn't get that chance to actually experience what it had been like to be on that team. I mean, and I felt like I was right there too, because like right before I left, like that's when the dudes started like bringing me under their wings, like skating with like Jeremiah Gold and Branch Shock and like, I don't know, all those guys, dude. But like, I don't know, man, it was just such a good time in my mind, dude. And now I don't feel like that passion is there for skateboarding anymore, but especially like not up here. I do feel like you're trying to bring it back with the shop, dude. And
it's pretty much, it's around everywhere in Alaska. Like some places it's not as like prevalent, but in Fairbanks, just speaking from my own experience, there is not a whole lot going on there right now for skateboarding. They're like trying, but it's just, there's not much. It's not like how it used to be. Because I remember you could show up to the park, to John Weaver, and there'd be like 50 people skating in the park, and now that place is a ghost town. No one will go there, you know? It's like rare to get people to go skate, you know? And there's really good skateboarders from Fairbanks, which is the crazy thing. Like, there's super talented skateboarders. Gary is probably, I think, one of the best skateboarders out of Fairbanks ever, you know? And it's crazy, like, that there's not anything to facilitate there, like, to get them up to that next point, you know?
Yeah, it's just a different interaction. It's a different, the way you encounter skateboarding or snowboarding is different now than 15 years ago. And that time frame when we were doing borderline videos and stuff, your interaction with those sports and those products was typically through your local board shop. And then we went through a lull where that wasn't the case. The internet came in strong, the big box stores came in strong, the local shops did not. I think they took for granted the situation they had, you know, and just you have an evolution. I would imagine that the earliest skaters say the same thing. I think the nature of our beast that we do is going to be constant change. Unfortunately, that change has also bled into how you actually approach doing these things. So some of the people that listen to this will say, nah, that's just your head. Well, I'm not talking about me. I still try to encounter it the same way. What I'm talking about is the kid who just started a year ago. What he sees when he goes to the park, or he goes to a skate jam, or he goes to a store in the mall, or whatever, is a completely different encounter with skateboarding or snowboarding than I had, than you had, that the kid that started 10 years ago has. Yeah. And I don't think we'll ever get it back, just because, the nature of technology and everything is moving forward and continuing to bust open this door that holds behind it all these things we don't like about it. It's cool to get these things on your phone, but you got a generation of kids that grew up not knowing local shops, not seeing any value in them, and encountering mall stores and encountering the phone from day one. All these solitary activities. The phone is supposed to make you feel really connected to everything, but really it's an isolating thing. As soon as you start just staring at your phone, when all you have to do is be around a group of 5 skaters or snowboarders at any given time, when you go to eat or something and you look down and there's 5 people looking at their phone, and a lot of times the interaction you get is, hey, look at this. It's not as much of this forcing people to communicate constantly with each other and form more of a tighter bond. I'm not trying to say that kids don't have a bond with each other. I'm not trying to say any of that. I'm just saying it's way different now. And having grown up in one point in time, there's no way I can fully understand what's happening right now, because that's not my experience. And there's no way that those kids will understand what I went through. All I can try to do with the shop is take the positive philosophies, the general principles that we saw, and try to put them in front of these kids and see which ones will gravitate to it. Try to present them with an environment that is bringing people together rather than separating. We try to do events that make people feel included. So we've talked about this, the shop and stuff before. Skateboarding, when you were talking about, Dylan, people, why did they hate us so much? Well, at that time, we were okay with being hated. We didn't necessarily like it, but we were like, cool, you don't like us? I don't care. Circle the wagons. These people think we're okay. They're the kids who skate with us every day. Cool, we circle the wagons and we defend each other from those outside hate mongers, whatever you want to call it. Just that, those people trying to tear down what you're doing or say you're lame or not let you feel good about doing what you're doing, right? So you said, cool, this is my group of skaters, this is my group of snowboarders, whatever it is. We don't care what you think. Then as time went on and skating became the cool way of dressing and the cool thing to do and all of that, well, all of a sudden now, all those kids that didn't necessarily have the wherewithal to get through the gauntlet of what it took to be a skateboarder, now we went through that stuff and we hold it with pride. Now it's a badge of honor, like, hey, we made it through the tough times, we made it through the hate, we made it through the name calling, we made it through the uncool, no girls want to talk to us time. We made it through all that, and now we wear this badge of skateboarder or snowboarder proudly. And then you feel like you want to protect that now. Now all of a sudden you feel like you want to be exclusive. Like, oh, now we're cool. You can't be a part of us anymore. That's good. I felt that. I've felt that. But the problem is then what have you done? Now you've turned into the jock. Now you've turned into somebody who says you can't be part of the cool party anymore.
That's the part of skateboarding right now that I don't like at all. It's like somehow people end up becoming the jock that they didn't like by doing that seclusion and like segregating everything into different, and it doesn't make sense.
It rolls back to the hating on stuff, the judgment of everything, and I've just gotten over it. Like I wanted to act. So most recently, I wanted to act that way towards longboarding because I felt like I don't care if you longboard, but don't call yourself a skater. Because I went through hell to be called a skater, and I wear that proudly now. After 30 years of doing it, I wear it proudly. But then I realized, like, dude, who am I to be saying anything to somebody who wants to roll sideways down the street? Good for them. Just because they don't do the part of skateboarding that I think meets the cool criteria, fuck me for being that guy. So I had to reel my own shit in and say, dude, don't be that. Don't be what you hated. in people. Don't be what made you feel uncomfortable and awful. And so we just try to run things around. We try to bring that back. I as much as I was nonconformist and middle finger to the world when I was in high school, teenage kid, and say I didn't care about anything, or not anything, but I didn't care about the outside cool stuff, you still are longing to be a part of something. And Borderline formed this scene that was okay with accepting my nerdy ass into it and allowed me a place where I felt kind of safe and could flourish and feel confident. And that's what you need as a teenager growing up. You need something where you can not constantly feel beat down and berated. And that environment gave that to me. And so now what I'm trying to do when you say that we try to be inclusive of people, well, that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to now create this new thing that kids may not have ever been aware of because they had no real local shop, and say, hey dude, it doesn't matter if you are not good at this or you're just interested in it or whatever. Come on in, because maybe you'll find your safe place. Maybe you'll find your spot inside the wagons to feel comfortable enough to flourish, to be a skateboarder or a snowboarder forever. The goal is not to be good at the stuff. Maybe that's your personal goal. But the goal when you start skateboarding isn't like, cool, I want to make it into the cool club. It's just to get to do it. You know, I just want to do it. I just want to go out and I want to feel fun and good times, and I want to smile and be stoked on stuff. So we try to make this environment where you're not constantly the cool police telling people like, you didn't do it right, you didn't do that right. Yeah, I love Grosso and love letters and the rules of skateboarding. That's cool.
I almost commented on his Instagram.
But you shouldn't feel like you can't come and be a part of it because you don't live by the rules of what some crew of 5 kids who are talented but will never get anywhere because they want to focus on hating on stuff tell you is cool or not.
Yeah.
You know? So forget that. If you're a kid who wants to skateboard or snowboard, just come to the shop. Ask all the questions you want. Our people will never give you a bunch of grief about that. We'll never be mean to you about it, because I want you to be stoked to go sideways through life, you know?
Grosso had that episode where he rags on people that push Mongo. Now, you guys may not know this, but I, in fact, pushed Mongo at one point in my life. That's why I throw down my board with the wrong hand. Dylan did it too. You pushed Mongo too for a while.
Oh, there's video proof of me.
Yeah, so it's funny because he went on like a 13-minute or 15-minute like tangent on like people that did it and like how he used to. And then there's a video of his daughter ripping Mongo, and he's like super stoked. And I'm like, well, as a dad, that's rad that she's, you know, but how can you talk so much shit on people that do it and then like not even like, and then like not say anything about it when it's your own. He's
starting a dialogue, and he's openly said like, hey man, these are just my thoughts. You know, if you don't, I mean, he doesn't mean shit. He says it doesn't mean shit. It's just my take on stuff. Don't get so serious about it. Don't get your panties in a bunch. We're just talking shit, and that's cool. I mean,
I love his show too, but it's just hilarious. That was like funny to me.
I mean, I think it's great. I love it, and I broke the rules all the time and whatever, but I don't give a shit. I just wanted to do the stuff, and I'm not going to put that rule on some kid, you know? I mean, we all have our thoughts on stuff, but I'm not going to push that out there to make some kid bummed that he even went out and skateboarded one day.
Yeah.
You know? And if you do that to people, then you can go to hell. You're not really a skater. You're a piece of shit that doesn't think about other human beings, you know? So, yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Dude, if you want to push Mongo, push Mongo.
I mean, I would definitely.
I benefited from that shit. I could skate faster switch than anybody in
Well,
Alaska.
actually, I was gonna say it helped me because then when I started to try and skate gaps and stuff switch, I could throw down with the right hand to the right foot way faster than somebody who did with the left hand and did switch Mongo.
There's definitely good reason to not push Mongo. I had to train myself to not push that way because I wanted to do gaps with short run-ins and all that stuff. It definitely looks better to not push that way. When I see kids do it, I try to teach them like, hey man, it's not anything other than your skateboarding can be helped by pushing the other way. So let's look at it that way, not like you're a fucking nerd because you do this. You know?
I got shit on super hard, and that's why I quit doing it because I was like, I got kicked out of the park, and they were like, "No, you can't skate today. Push my." I was like, "God damn it, dude!" So I had to like learn for like so long, had to retrain myself to push the other way. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's just funny that, like, to me, skateboarding, there really isn't any rules. It's about your interpretation of what you want it to be. So, like, you could take, like I always say, you can take 5 skateboarders, put them at a spot, and they're going to skate it, look at it completely different. It's what you want to do at the place on your skateboard. But then it's funny when, you know, you think about all the rules that, the sacred rules, like, don't maul grab, don't push Mongo, like, don't do this, don't do that, and it's like, well, it's not like the philosophy of it to begin with, like.
So, but a lot of those rules are based in style, and style matters. So it's good to have those as a base to work from, but you don't need to take some kid who's been skating a month and bombard him with a bunch of bullshit that makes him bummed on skateboarding.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure. I
mean, if anything, we should be outlawing jeans with bedazzled crap on the back of it rather than worrying about how they do their kickflip.
Yeah, that and camo pants with 5 different colors. I don't like those either.
You know, that's what happens when people get so good at something that there's no longer like you run out of things to worry about because they've gotten so good at everything that they have to start going back and messing with all this stuff that was taboo before.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you can't do this kind of trick or that kind of trick, or you can't wear this stuff or whatever. And you're like, oh, dude, I already know how to do every single trick there is. So I'm bored. Let's move on and mess with something else. Let's have some fun. I mean, we had a video steezing for no reason because whatever, no reason. You know, let's just have some fun with it. Let's not take it so serious. You know, just get over yourselves. Let's just calm down, have fun, make people feel stoked about it. Because somebody let you feel stoked about it.
Well, yeah, I was that little kid that went into the shop and had no fucking idea what I was doing, you know? Like,
the only thing I wish was that we had the room without the helicopter parents to be a little bit more tough love about etiquette. I wish that there was that, because you got these kids who want to make sandcastles in the bottom of a bowl.
You should hire Josh Thomas. He's really good at that.
You want to do that, and then you say like, "Hey, can you move?" And they go, "What? Did you say you were going to touch me inappropriately? Oh, cool. My dad with face tats is going to go over here and stick you." You know,
well, that happened to me and Josh Thomas.
I know. That's what I'm talking about. It's
he didn't have face tats, but he's
the guy at Russian Jack does.
The kid all we said was, hey, you gotta wait your turn, and there's like an order to it.
Right.
And he goes home and he says to his dad, these 2 guys said that they were gonna beat me up with their skateboards at the park, so we left. Not even remotely close to what had happened.
Yeah.
And the dude comes ripping up with like his homie, and he's just ready to just wreck whoever it was that said that to his kid. And then when he gets there, he kind of like, we start talking to him, and he kind of realizes like, oh shit, like these are like, you know, late 20s, early 30s dudes that really aren't doing that. And I was like, yeah, like, why would I tell your kid who's 7 years old I was going to beat him with a skateboard? Like,
what good does that do me?
Come on, dude. Like, it was just...
You're trying to tell a kid to keep their head up when they're skating so they see who's coming because, hey, guess what? I weigh 130 pounds more than you. You're going to lose if we run into each other. And then the parents go wild. And you're like, I came in that time where there was no kid gloves on when you were taught etiquette. You know, it was a little bit harsher.
Yeah, me neither.
And you know, like, that's a little contradictory to what I'm saying. I want you to be welcome into skateboarding, but I also want you to understand that there's etiquette at the skate park so that everyone can use the spot, and we should be able to not have to say, hey, can we have a safe zone talk here about this? You should be able to be like, hey, wait your turn, get the fuck out of the way, don't sit there, stuff like that, without hurting everyone's feelings and without parents coming in raging, without kids feeling like they're alienated because of it. They should, that's the only place where I wish we could be a little bit rougher around the edges.
I'm pretty straightforward with most, especially at Russian Jack. Like the day I went there, and there was the middle school had brought all the kids over to the park, and instead of playing on the playground, there was like fucking 100 kids inside the bowl. They were eating Jolly Ranchers. They gave them all Jolly Ranchers, and there's like wrappers all over the place. And I'm like, I almost pulled a Dylan. I started like, I started hyperventilating. I was like, who do I have to talk? Who's in charge here? And the little kid goes, that lady right there. And I go, okay. And I go, this is not the playground, Like, I know that you're trying to like take them out and have fun and stuff, and I get that, but I come here to do this thing, and this is what it's for. And she was really understanding of it. She was like, oh, I totally understand. We'll clean up the stuff and we'll leave. And like, usually it's like you're saying, it's not like that. It's like Mama Bear comes in and she's swinging for the fences, like, don't tell my kid what to do, and it's awful. Dude, it's... Dylan.
People don't understand. They actually, like, when we lived down in Oregon, they actually did a planned field trip to the skateboard park.
Yeah, I have a clip
not
of
one,
it.
Not one kid had a skateboard or a scooter or nothing, dude. It was just 40 kids running around the skateboard park, dude.
We used to film edits at White City in Oregon, and me and Dylan, and I think it was Lenwood, and we went there to film Dylan do like some flip trick into a grind onto the ledge, and we show up, and literally within 5 minutes this bus pulls in, and it's literally a bus full of little kids, and they're just like running around the thing. And like, I was like, let's just try, dude, we'll try and film it. And Dylan doesn't even try it one time. We roll up, he rolls up, stomps his board and like freaks them. It's not playground, and starts raging. And I was like, oh my god, dude, like, let's just get out of here. Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's just because, like, going back to people who don't skateboard or snowboard or anything, they don't understand what the skate park is for, right?
So it's like, it is a playground.
It is like basically a playground to them. They're like, oh, this cool ramp and stuff, and you're like, that's really not what. That's what the thing over there is for.
And now we all know what every business owner felt like.
Yeah.
What do you think this is made for? Oh, I think it's made for skating because it's sick.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's why it has plants in it, dumbass. Keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty true. Yeah, but that shit was the funniest though. I still have that clip on my phone or on my old laptop of you freaking out at that skate park. So good.
I feel bad, man.
Yeah, I don't feel bad. The best
It's
one
all
was when
perspective. It's all perspective.
the best one is the little girl that after I filmed that clip of you, and she grabs my fisheye lens with her greasy pizza fingers. She literally grabs my fisheye.
Lucky her nails didn't scratch it.
Shut up.
But you were so mean, dude. It was a little
like,
girl.
what do
She
you-
was kind of chippy. He's like, this ain't a snack cake, dude. Like,
What are you grabbing my lens for? This isn't a piece of food. Like, I
probably
was
scarred that kid for life,
Dude, it took me so long to get enough money to buy that lens, and I was like trying to not ever scratch it, and it was like this kid just goes, oh, like straight into
It's
it.
too bad you didn't have $1 for every time someone told you to do a kickflip.
I wish.
You got that lens easy.
Yeah. Or a laser flip. Stupidest question ever.
Man. So unfortunately, we are running out of time here. I gotta get ready to get going to work, but man,
To go to work?
Yeah, but we gotta get you back on the show. I feel like there's just not enough time in the world to hear what you gotta say, Jason. But it was an honor having you on the show today. I want to give a big shout out to Blue and Gold Board Shop. Be sure you swing down there. All your skateboard, snowboard needs. Shout out to the 49 Supply Co. We got them on here. Shout out to my unofficial sponsor, DC Shoes. Hook your boy up. I'm wearing your shit. I got the shoes on right now. Get them at Blue and Gold Board Shop. They got the DCs down there.
Hey, I want to say thank you very much for having me on. I obviously talk too much when I do talk, and you guys put up with it, and you are kind enough to act like you want to hear it. So yeah, I appreciate it. I'm just trying to make something positive happen here. It's not about me, it's about what we're doing here, and you guys are positive and you help promote that same thing, whether it's at the skate park, whether it's with what you're doing here. You're building something, and I appreciate you letting me be in the same list of names as the people that have been on the show and being a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we love having you on here, man. You've been a major part in my mind of, Alaska skateboard and snowboard culture, dude. And we appreciate everything you're doing. So just keep doing what you're doing too, man.
Oh, shout out, where would you find you? Social media, location, all that stuff.
Yeah, you can check us
11124
out,
Old Seward Highway, Unit H, Suite 700.
Yep, and we are just Blue and Gold AK on all social media. Just spell it all out. We do the tweets. We work on the Facebooks, and we do the Instagrams. We do a lot of events. So just we just encourage you to come be a part of it. Be around other people that share the passions that you have, and that's what we're trying to facilitate. So check out our stuff. Come be a part of it. You don't have to buy something, or just come in and hang out and be around other people so that you're stoked on being a part of the scene. And that's it, dude.
Heck yeah. All right, y'all. That's it for today. We will be back soon with another episode. So peace out from the Far North Podcast.
Way up north to Alaska. Way up north to Alaska.
I hate this song.
You love this song, Tim.
No, I don't.
That's tight.
Hell yeah, Jason. I appreciate you, man. Awesome having you on, dude.